Yo! I can't believe he actually said it.
That warms my heart, particularly as a black man. Would you?
Whoa! What in the world is going on here as we are getting record levels of disclosures under Trump's new administration that is really hitting the nail home and right on the head of some really key issues that used to be seen as conspiracies. We're going to be talking about human trafficking. We're going to be talking about geoengineering, climate change, chemtrails, you name it. We're going to get right into it as it looks like finally now there is an unraveling in our mainline society that truly is eye-opening to say the least here. And these are some different times that we're living in under now that we previously haven't ever lived before. This as we're finding out that the FBI agents that participated in the show of force for Black Lives Matter in 2020, that was also associated with mega riots and the death and destruction of many American civilians, as well as their private property, have now been removed from their positions. Yes, you heard that correctly. These ladies here, some of them bravely masked. This creature, whatever he may be, are now finally being removed from major positions of power here, which is highlighting how nature is healing. Another way it's healing is, of course, through a lot of these lunatics in positions of power are finally being called, are finally being fired, are finally being held responsible for their insane, idiotic actions, saying, you no longer have power here. As I think one of the biggest movers and shakers in this Trump administration is definitely RFK Jr. Now, there's a lot to criticize RFK Jr. on, like we have previously beforehand, but I wanted to focus on some of the more positive, bigger aspects here, since there's some things at play here that are monumental, titanic, plate-shifting style movements that are absolutely worth talking about here. As of course, we're going to get right into it, as now top federal health leaders are being fired. Fauci's replacements are being fired. And now RFK Jr. is announcing that Biden and the previous Department of Health and Human Services was complicit in child trafficking, as once again, conspiracy theorists were right. Yes, you heard that correctly. This is what RFK Jr. just said at a major announcement during Trump's cabinet meetings. This is big. This is vast, and I think it's absolutely worth paying attention to, since a lot of people are saying, yeah, there should be arrests here immediately because of this.
We have ended HHS as the role as the vector, the principal vector in this country for child trafficking. And during the Biden administration, HHS became a collaborator in child trafficking and for
adult actions with children. This is big here. This is monumental
for slavery, and we have ended that, and we're very aggressively going out and trying to find these children. 300,000 children that were lost by the Biden administration.
Now, why can't they find the children? Well, that's because the Biden administration has implemented policies where they just said, come on in, kids, and then they lost them. What else did they do? We also found out HHS was quietly paying for kids, quote, gender-affirming care. Something, of course, that RFK Jr. now has ended, saying, these mutilation surgeries for gender dysphoria practices, which, by the way, have been banned in places like the United Kingdom, and under his leadership here. As, of course, it's not gender-affirming care. It's care that makes people hooked on big pharma for the rest of their lives here. As of course, minors now will not be getting federally financed for surgical interventions based off cockamamie made-up mumbo-jumbo science that a lot of people within HHS were forcing on people in order to help them transition, in order to essentially help out the larger eugenics depopulation agenda out there. As of course, that was one of the things. But the bigger things here that he was kind of hinting at here was that HHS was playing a principal vector in this country for child trafficking. Now, how were they doing that? Well, the Washington Times reported in August that the Department of Homeland Security lost track of 32,000, illegal migrant children. They just lost them. They failed up to show up their deportation hearings and rarely bothered even to look for them. That's absolutely insane. And as now we're finding out, it's not just Homeland Security that was involved here, as nearly 300,000 children during President Joe Biden's terms were not given immigration court summonses, as the Inspector General said at the time, that they were known as unaccompanied children. They showed up at the border without parents and were placed with sponsors in the United States while they waited to find out whether they could remain in the country. And Mr. Biden's HHS was responsible for placing the children with sponsors, but then it lost track of tens of thousands of children after the children and sponsors stopped replying. Interesting there, as of course now we're also finding out that the National Human Trafficking Hotline stopped participating with local law enforcement for some strange reason. Yes, they're getting grants from the federal government, but for some strange reason, RFK had to write a letter to them, and he was written a letter himself saying, hey, the National Trafficking Hotline is deciding not to share tips with local law enforcement. I wonder why that is happening here, as almost every single policy of the Biden administration was prioritizing this larger influx of a new population of people that were literally using children as a crux to get into this country, saying, oh, no, look, we're with a child. You can't separate us. You can't detain us. You can't deport us. We're with a child. No, we're totally innocent. Get us in. And then we found out children were being kidnapped. Then we found out criminal gangs and organizations were just taking children. You go to Mexico, it's all flyers of like, hey, missing child here, missing child here. It's an epidemic, especially in third world countries. Now, Mexico, I wouldn't even describe as a third world country, but the amount of child disappearances that happen there are very peculiar. Now, RFK Jr. unwinding all of this, RFK Jr. looking into all of this, I think is absolutely critically important, and hopefully with the work of this federal government, there will be some major actions going after these people, as RFK Jr. isn't only looking at the trafficking epidemic that was aided and abetted by departments of governments that, of course, just made sure children disappeared. Oh, yeah, where did they go? I don't know. It doesn't matter. RFK Jr. looks like he does care. He does want to find out, where are they? What's going on here? And it looks like soon we will be getting answers on that and some other key critical issues that, of course, we have been denied the truth about for far too frickin' long. As, of course, now the topic of conversation is about geoengineering. What's going on here? We'll talk about that. Before we do, we wanted to tell you about thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Again, we got some bangers available here. The shirt that I'm wearing right now is this hunky-dory IRS agent. It's based off a real IRS agent, as they were doing firearms training with a man with disabilities for some strange reason. That's the perfect person with firearms. And the shirt says, "We want our cut of your $600 Venmo transaction." Because if you remember, the Biden administration was saying, "Oh, you sold, trade, or got money for $600. You better report it, or we're coming after you." And then I decided this representation of a real life IRS agent with a firearm was the perfect representation of this kind of new Uncle Sam, Uncle Crook type of representation that you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. We got a lot of great shirts. Just venture out into the store. You're going to see some that we cannot show you in this particular broadcast here. We got some really knee-slapping, funny ones for your crazy uncle. If anyone's birthday's coming up, we also got women's T-shirts, short sleeves. We got hats. We got socks. You name it. We got it. You just got to keep scrolling all throughout here. And you're going to find some really awesome T-shirts that help you express yourself, make people laugh, but also, most importantly, bring people together, which we need to do more than ever. And if you agree, get a T-shirt and do your own form of lazy activism on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Now, let's venture into this topic of geoengineering, as the official RFK Jr. Twitter page posted specifically that 24 states in America are moving to ban geoengineering of the climate, as they are, according to RFK Jr., dosing their citizens as, of course, there are waterways, landscapes filled with toxins, as this is a movement that MAHA will, of course, be doing its part to try to stop and deal with. One of the states that are trying to, of course, deal with geoengineering is the beautiful state of Florida, my home state that does absolutely wonderful and incredible stuff comparatively to the rest of the country, as John F. Kennedy Jr., of course, wasn't quiet about this issue beforehand, as he previously said that we need to put a stop to geoengineering. As the corporate media said, it doesn't exist, it's a conspiracy theory, that doesn't happen. Well, it looks like it is happening, and it's happening in more ways than one. Ways that, of course, we've been speaking out against for a while, as it looks like RFK Jr. is thinking that DARPA could be behind a chemtrail geoengineering program that is being delved out and utilized against the population without their consent or acquiescing. Yes, RFK Jr. is looking into this as a crime that, of course, could potentially soon be exposed here. That was a very important kind of conversation that happened on Dr. Phil a couple months ago, where Dr. Phil and his audience were stunned when a participant asked point blank, hey, what are you going to do about those toxic aerosols being sprayed over us every single day here? This is the question, and this is the conversation that I think is needed to be started more than ever, as there are companies right now in America that are literally putting up chemicals in the sky in order to block out the sun. And this is something that is a Bill Gates project in order to, quote, make the weather gooder, but it's essentially tinkering and playing with the climate as if you're God, and creating a very kind of awful situation.
My biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us every day. Bromium, aluminum, strontium, it's sprayed in our skies all day long. And I know you've talked to Dane Wigington about this. He seems to be one of the experts in the field.
Is there a question?
Yes. How do we stop it? My big...
Very good question, which RFK Jr. Answered, actually.
That is not happening in my agency. You know, we don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA. And a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Yeah, that's a major admission here. It looks like this actually wasn't months ago. It looks like this was actually yesterday, as we have RFK Jr.'s first 100 days. That's an important question. But most importantly, this is a very big, important admission from RFK Jr., who isn't shrugging it off, who's taking it seriously and bringing it to everyone's attention, saying, yeah, we're going to find out what's going on here, and we're going to hold people accountable. As, again, the policy, the kind of conversation around geoengineering always has been a very convoluted one, because on one hand, you got conspiracy theorists that have been more right than wrong, but there's a portion of them that take it a little bit too far and literally just go off the deep end and talk about things that never really existed, never really happened. But then on the other side, some of those conspiracy theorists have been right. And when it comes to this topic, there's a big pushback with the corporate media just saying, oh, all of the crazy people, they're all the same. No. There's some conspiracy theorists that have been absolutely right about this. There's some government whistleblowers like Kristen Megan, who we had on our show here, that whistleblowed on all of this and got it out there to the general public. As now, the EPA is seeking information from, quote, make sunsets. As the EPA is saying, we are demanding information from the startup company that is launching balloons filled with sulfur dioxide that is seeking to geoengineer the planet and generate cooling. As rightfully so, the federal government should stop this program immediately, as they are tinkering with our environment, with our atmosphere in totally non-scientific ways, as this was happening a few months ago under the Biden administration. I was making videos about this. I was saying, hey, can we not tinker with geoengineering? Can we not try to block out the sun from the world here? As, of course, Mexico banned this company from operating in its property, in its territory. But now this is being done in states like California. And I think we're deserving of some questions to what are you exactly putting up there? What are going to be the long-term consequences of this? Is now the EPA is saying, hey, we need answers because this is unregulated geoengineering that is implementing vast changes for everyone without our consent or acquiescence. This is something that we never voted for. We never said, yeah, the weather's a little bit too hot, go block it out. We never said that. We never, ever, as a general public, had a vote on this. And it is absolutely ridiculous to have this Bill Gates linked sponsored program that has unforeseen consequences that we still don't know about at play here. As of course, I would say the Department of Homeland Security needs to get involved here and say, hey, this is an issue of national security. You're going to stop this immediately. And we talked about this. We reported on this a few days ago as these programs are going mainstream. They're being implemented all over Europe. At first, there was a little bit of resistance here, but no longer is there any kind of resistance here. Now, so far, I think RFK Jr., when it comes to addressing this, investigating other things that are of key importance, is the right step to make here. As of course, RFK Jr. is also reportedly working on banning people from buying sodas and candy on food stamps, which I think is absolutely the right move to make here. As of course, we should not be subsidizing the fattening of America as poor people that are on benefits are going out there and subsidizing some of the worst industries, some of the worst food practices, some of the worst companies out there that are poisoning us, and then they're becoming fat, they're becoming unhealthy, they have all these health issues, and then when they have all these health issues, they, of course, will need health care. Who's going to pay for the health care? We are. And, people are like, but it's a free market. Listen, food stamps aren't a free market idea, okay? You want a free market idea, get rid of food stamps. And people are like, no, but you're not libertarian. Food stamps are not libertarian. Get rid of all food stamps if you want to make the libertarian argument here. And I think not incentivizing poor people to buy sodas, candies, and taking away that market share that, of course, so many poor people utilize and abuse, I think it's a good step forward as we're seeing a totally different style of governance that we never, ever had before. We just reached 100 days here under this leadership here. And it's fair to say next year, things are going to be absolutely that much different. As right now, we have the Make America Healthy Again Commission looking into investigating all of this. They are ending petroleum food dyes. Major step in the right direction. They are going after major additives. Yes, please. They are trying to look at scientific studies to try to understand why there's such a huge rise in autism. Yes, we need that. They are exposing a lot of the very biased science that has been bought off by pharmaceuticals and big companies out there that literally go to the scientific institutions and say, you know what, you're just going to create this kind of outcome. We're going to pay you for it. And that's exactly what they have been doing. They are eliminating the 10,000 plus chemicals in grass loophole, as of course RFK Jr. has directed the FDA to change the rules allowing food companies to say new ingredients are, quote, generally recognized as safe or grass. Yeah, that's a big issue there. He's releasing new dietary guidelines that will be available for 2025 to 2030. Yeah, I bet there's going to be a lot more emphasis there on protein. There's also Operation Stork Speed, which will be removing harmful chemicals from baby food. Yes, that's needed more than ever. Lots of it is just filled with seed oils and artificial ingredients and sugars too. And of course, he is now doing federal and state partnerships to mobilize local action on a local level, just like we saw in West Virginia, that is implementing a lot of this, while of course cutting $67 billion with Deutsche here, terminating a lot of the grants and nonsense that, of course, we were paying for, utilizing and pushing forward some of the worst incredulous policies that have led to America being fatter, sicker than ever. I think, listen, there's things that we could be critical of RFK Jr. for. By the way, we had a very funny RFK Jr. Shirt. If you go into the best political shirts and you type in RFK, I just ordered this one for myself here. I also have this image in my refrigerator and in my kitchen cupboard. Every time you open up the kitchen cupboard, you get an image like this of RFK Jr. looking at you disappointed, saying, don't eat that. And again, we got that shirt that you should wear around in the food courts here. Overall, listen, there's some things that came up with RFK Jr., specifically with the mRNA type of stuff that is a little bit questionable here. Yeah, but seeing RFK Jr. announce, they were doing human trafficking here with children that are still lost here that we're trying to find here. Seeing RFK Jr. saying, we're going to get to the bottom of what's in the skies, who's spraying us, and we're going to hold them accountable. That right there is huge. It is major, and it could lead to transformational changes, titanic, magnetic shifts in the political health discourse of this country, as there's a couple bad things that he's done. Overall, overwhelmingly, this, yes, is exactly what I voted for. I want to see more actions. I want to see arrests. If there's people out there spraying us with some weird stuff without our consent, leading to negative consequences, hurting people, hurting the environment, hold them responsible. What's going up in those chemtrails? What's causing all this? Huge levels of illnesses, sicknesses, heart disease, obesity, autism. What's causing all this? Let's get to the bottom of it. And it looks like we are. To me, this is the fight that is worth having. This is the most important fight. And then when we saw RFK Jr. get picked by Donald Trump to be a part of his new administration, I knew the consequences of it. I was like, holy cow, this is going to be big. And this has shifted the conversation. This has shifted the landscape as, of course, a healthy America, an America that doesn't have to rely on being poisoned every step of the way here, that doesn't have to be hyper paranoid when they go to the supermarket, is an America that I think will fully be unleashed with its full potential once we stop poisoning and destroying humanity, once we stop trying to stuff it out and we allow it to breathe, we allow it to grow, we allow it to expand, we allow it to live to its fullest, healthiest potential. That right there is something that I voted for, something that I agree with. And if you agree with it, share this video. Get the RFK t-shirt. It's pretty funny. I like to wear it around the fats. If you're fat, this is your wake-up call. Let's go. Go for a walk. Get some exercise. Hit the gym. I'm gonna go to. I'm inspired. I'm going to the gym right now. Right after this. You should too. Work out. It's a new day and age, and it's a beautiful day and age where finally we're actually starting some real conversations, and it looks like we're gonna get some real legitimate answers, and hopefully some major arrests here. It's an amazing time to be alive. Stay tuned for more, all here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange.